Paul asks, I am now 61 years old and just retired, so understand I can access all my super tax-free. I'm about to move my balance less than $6,000 from an accumulation account to an income account. I wish to reduce the death tax payable by my beneficiaries in the case of my death. I have over 600,000 in my super as a taxable component and wonder if and how I can withdraw part of it, say up to 300,000 if no bring forward used, and contribute it back to super as a non-concessional contribution.
Okay, so Paul, what we're looking at here is a really common strategy. You read about it almost every day in financial press. I know we've covered it through numerous webinars and articles. It's around reducing taxes, what we call death taxes on superannuation when a member passes away. So, quick introduction or quick background to this. Tax is payable on benefits in super or on superannuation death benefits if they're paid to non-dependent people on our death. The thing is that non-dependents include our adult children. Spouses are dependent, so no matter really how old we are, most super death benefits that we pay to our spouses on our passing are tax-free. But benefits that then pass to an adult child um, aren't necessarily tax-free. What happens is we look at the components of the death benefit, and it will be broken up into the tax-free component, and it'll be broken up into the taxable component. So we'll cover what happens there shortly, but your tax-free component there is usually comprises of your non-concessional contributions which have been made. The taxable component usually includes all your personal contributions for which you've claimed a tax reduction, or your employer contributions, and all the earnings over the years. They form the taxable component. And where that component, the taxable component, is paid out to non-dependents, so to our adult kids, they can pay tax usually around 15% plus Medicare on the taxable component. If there's any untaxed element, look, I'll cover that later, but that relates to things like insurance policies and things. That can be as high as 30%, maximum of 30%. So people often don't like that. They don't like the fact that, hey, if I pull the money out a day before I die and I'm over 60, it's tax free. But if I leave it in super and it goes to my kids, then they're going to pay tax on some of that money. So, what we look at, or what's often discussed, is the use of the recontribution strategy. And if the recontribution strategy is carried out effectively, it can reduce or even eliminate that death tax payable by our kids. And the way it works is we pull money out from super. When we pull money out from super, we need to do it proportionately. So let's just say that I've got $1 million in my super, 50% taxable and 50% tax free. If I pull $100,000 out, it's going to come 50,000 from taxable and 50,000 tax free. I pull it out, it's tax free to me. And then if I recontribute that amount back in as a non concessional contribution, it forms part of the tax free component, which goes to my kids tax free. So the whole recontribution strategy involves us withdrawing an amount from super fund. So the payments come from our fund proportionally from both the taxable and tax free. If you're eligible to access those amounts and you're 60 plus, those amounts to you are tax free. Once you've got those amounts, you can then recontribute these if you're allowed under the caps and the limits. You can recontribute those amounts as non-concessional contributions, and they form part of the tax-free component. And as I said, it's a tax-free component which gets paid out to our kids, to non-dependents, including adult kids, tax-free on death. So it's a simple recontribution. Money comes out, money goes back in. We're washing the money from taxable to being tax-free. Just some considerations around doing this. You need to be eligible to access your super to do this. So if you retire after age 60, which I think was one of the comments in the question that came through, is I'm now 61 and just retired. So if you've retired after age 60, which is ceasing the arrangement under which you're gainfully employed, that means you've met a condition of release and would allow you to access your super. Because you're over age 60, amounts that come out are tax-free. Do follow the required process for your fund. There could be required notices to let them know that you've retired, that you're no longer working, and then request for money to be paid out to you, either by way of a lump sum or a pension. It's up to you, and make sure you follow the fund rules. Then when you put the money back in, make sure you follow the required process that your fund needs. Again, they'll have specific forms around contributions and the type of the contribution. Once the contribution's been made, it has to go, of course, into the accumulation phase. You can't contribute to any sort of existing pension. It's got to go to the accumulation phase, and then think about the timing of pensions around that. So the reason I just sort of talk about sort of pensions is you might want to think about doing these things before pensions start. I'll come back to that in a second. What I'm getting at here is, if you do the recontribution strategy, if you're thinking of doing it, quite often it's worth doing this before we start pensions. Otherwise, you might need to run multiple pensions. So once you've pulled money out, when you put that contribution back in, it must go to the accumulation. You can't contribute to an existing pension. So if the pension starts, if you start a pension before making that recontribution, you'll need to start a new pension, run multiple pensions. If the pension starts after the contribution's made, so we withdraw money, make the recontribution, and then start a larger pension, you might be able to do that with just the one single pension. Again, some more details on the website around death benefits and taxes. Have a look at that. It does go through the differences between dependents and non-dependents, or if it's even paid to your estate. So have a look at that article. Further information on the recontribution strategy. I was only updated a couple of weeks ago, I think, at the latest. It takes you through what the recontribution strategy is and how it works. So have a look again at Kate's article on how recontribution strategy works.
And a very similar question from Paul and Lisa. Hi, my question relates to how my wife and I can utilize the tax minimization benefits of the recontribution strategy in relation to our daughter who will inherit our super after we both die. At this time, my wife and I are each other's reversionary beneficiaries. We both recently turned 60 and are now fully retired. We have also recently converted all of our super from accumulation funds to pension accounts. As currently a high percentage of our super is a taxable component, are we able to simply withdraw $360,000 each from our pension accounts? We don't have any current amounts already brought forward, and put these amounts back into the same existing pension accounts as non-concessional contributions. Our concern is that we may have needed to do this while still in the accumulation phase.
Yeah, thanks, Rob, and Paul and Lisa. Thank you for your question. And really, this is exactly what we were just looking at in that prior question. So everything that we just went through, when it comes to the recontribution strategy, all that is relevant for this question. So really, to bypass and not need to repeat myself around all that, the amounts that you take from an existing pension or amounts that you take from super can't be recontributed to a pension. All contributions that get made to super, all contributions need to be allocated to your accumulation account. Okay, so think about you've got a pool of funds, which are your pension balances, what you've used to start pensions. Once that pension commences, you are not allowed to add any further capital to that pension. It can grow by way of fund earnings and returns, but we can't add new money or capital to that pension. all contributions need to go to your accumulation account. Now, once those amounts have been contributed to your accumulation account, you've then sort of got a couple of options. You can commence a new second or third or fourth or 50th pension. So you just run multiple pensions, or if you wanted to, totally up to you, you could stop what we call commute or roll back any existing pension back to accumulation, which gets added to those contributions you've made, and then start a new pension with all the money, so a new higher valued pension. Um, Again, what I'd be looking at here is the tax components that make up those contributions and the tax components which make up those pensions. It's not uncommon for people to run multiple different pensions, each with their own different underlying tax components. The key here, the key comment here, is that you can't contribute to your pension. You need to contribute to your accumulation account. It doesn't mean, if I just jump back aside, it doesn't mean that you have to do it while in accumulation phase. It just means that you now need to run multiple pensions. You can still do the recontribution, but it won't be contributed back to the existing pension. It'll go to the accumulation phase. There is a case study that Akash has put out again quite recently, a recontribution strategy case study. Have a look at it. It might add some more value to you as well.